This show is intended for mature audiences only. Viewer discretion is advised.
Hello, humans, and welcome to another episode of Gen X Gamer. That's right, the video game show that is not hosted by an annoying e-beggar. There are no Patreons, no Super Chats. That's right, we just talk about the games we love and how fun it is to hoard them, and maybe a topic here or there. Now, with that said, let's get ready for the show. On today's episode... Hello, humans, and welcome to another episode of Behind the Channel. Today, a lady that needs no introduction. She is the first lady of internet drama. She's making snowflakes cry from coast to coast, and she's the secret crush of men that love getting yelled at from Mexico to Canada. That's right. She's the so-called queen of that in television cult, people say. And after all the arguments and all the drama that we had over the past year, I present to you the one, the only, the very gracious Miss Saggy Melonz. Saggy, how are you?
I am good. Thank you so much for having me. This is exciting.
Well, let's start at the beginning. You know, some of the people from the Arcade 1-Up community don't know you. So where did your name come from, Saggy Melonz, which is great, by the way?
Well, I do game despite popular belief, and I have a person I play Apex Legends, which was the game I played a lot of, like daily. He had gotten suspended for his trash talk, and he had to make another account, but his name was Wrinkled Twinkie, and so he made another name called Wrinkled Twinkie on his other account so he can still play Apex with us. But when he was playing by himself, he was complaining that, oh, this is too easy. I want to just get in the same like matchmaking as you guys are to play against the more advanced players. Mm-hmm. So I said, do you want me to help you to just, run through to get you up there so you start getting matched and we can play together? This was before we realized that it didn't matter. He could have just partied with us and gotten the same lobbies as us, but we didn't know that. But I had made the name Saggy Melonz because I thought it'd be funny that when you get into a game and you're killing the enemy team on the screen, it shows you which player killed which player. So it was funny to say the name Saggy Melonz of Wrinkled Twinkie killed XYZ. So that's what the name came from. And then when I decided to rebrand my channel, I was like, that should be my persona. So
yeah, yes, I've seen you play not only Apex, but I've seen you play Fortnite too. You're better than I am for sure. My grandson's always kicking my ass in Fortnite. But let me ask you, I saw your first video, right? It was Anime Dance Party. That was like 15 years ago or so. Who was Saggy Melonz back then?
So Saggy Melonz used to be Red Eye Viper, and that was a name from my fan fiction I used to write based on Metal Gear Solid. It was a character that was in the Metal Gear Solid universe. So that was the name I went by back then, and I was pretty much the same, but probably less loud back then.
Yes, your voice sounds different for sure.
Yeah, I was definitely more shy, reserved than I am today. So,
well, let me ask you, what was your first console? What was your favorite game?
My first console that I remember was a Nintendo Classic, the old school Nintendo. Mm-hmm. My favorite game, I think it was Super Mario Brothers 3, the one where you could turn into the raccoon.
Yes.
Yeah. That was my favorite game because that was a game I played a lot with my mom. We played a lot of that, and man, I can't tell you that was the first time I experienced gamer rage. And yeah, so those are my best memories of my mom is playing the Nintendo, the NES Classic back in the day.
Oh, that's awesome. And then there's a gap, and then you come back, right? What was that process like? Why were you absent for that period of time and then come back, or were you on other platforms and just not posting to YouTube?
So when I started the channel originally, I did edits. A lot of the videos actually that are on the channel from like back when I started are gone. I had to remove them for copyright reasons because YouTube was a different entity back 15 years ago. Mm-hmm. But my very first video on the channel that I had posted was a Numa video of Guild Wars. I recorded it with a camera, like a camcorder, of my computer screen. I posted here and there. I eventually stopped just because my computer broke, and at the time, I just didn't have the funds to buy a new computer for a while. And then when I did get a computer, coming back to YouTube wasn't really a thing I thought I wanted to do. It wasn't something I thought of. It wasn't until I got back into, the online culture and started meeting content creators that had open panel shows, and I would go on there and talk. Is when I was like, I kind of want to get back into doing this myself. So I actually started another channel, not rebooted this one. I started another channel under the alias Ray Bear, because that was my username back then as well. So I used that alias for a while in that channel. It was primarily a gaming channel. And then that's when I started getting a little bit of noticing people and meeting other YouTubers. And then once I caught up to what my 15-year channel was, which is 140 subs, I was like, well, I'm just going to bring those over to that one and rebrand. And that's when I just decided, I'm going to do this on this channel.
Now, let me ask you, what was the process of you becoming what you call yourself now, I guess, is a drama channel? How did it evolve into that specifically?
So as I was doing my content, like I said, I still wanted to do gaming, and then I started doing movie reviews, like Netflix shows and things I like. So I started doing that, and just dabbled a little bit into different things that I like to do and do it on my channel. Once I started, like I said, I met some friends that had YouTube channels, some bigger, some smaller. They would invite me to their channels to have discussions about movie talk and things like that, or drama that was happening that I didn't even really know about, or I'm just hearing it for the first time. But I always try to at least bring something to a conversation, even if I'm not 100% keen on the topic. I kind of learn as I'm listening. So as I was talking, people would subscribe to my channel. And because they heard my takes on a certain topic on another channel that was maybe drama related, people would say, "Hey, Saggy, did you hear about that person doing XYZ?" And I'd be like, "Oh, no." And they're like, "You should talk about that." So then I started talking about that, and then more people started coming to hear my takes on these things. And then it kind of just, like I said, just went from there. Like, the more stories I heard and the more I got into the YouTube community and stuff, I started talking more about drama and things that bothered me. I sometimes talk about things that I like, but obviously we already know drama is what a lot of people tune into.
Absolutely, especially when you're when you're yelling at men. That seems to be very, very, very popular.
Yep, apparently.
Let me ask you, in this censorship-filled world of platforms that we have now, it's a very fine line that we walk, right? And you specifically, that line is like a hairline that you're walking with that type of content. I mean, how do you see yourself moving forward through these, murky waters? Because, I mean, we had stuff like that Quantum TV guy, that was striking, and he prevailed, right? Most people thought that wasn't going to be anything, but after all that happened, the guy prevailed. So how do you navigate those waters?
I mean, at any given point, anyone can get canceled for anything in 2022, right? Like we see this all the time. So it's hard to think about, because the way I talk when I'm passionate about something, the things I say, the insults that fly out of my mouth, the offensive things that sometimes I say, I'm always worried in the back of my mind after I do that stuff. I'm just sitting there like, damn, am I going to get canceled for this? And then nothing happens. But it'll be like something stupid that it's like people will get upset about and be like, oh, you don't need to have a platform and things like that. And you're just sitting there like, the rules on the internet about what's free to say and free not to say, and your opinions on things, and what it's a very gray area. So I'm kind of just like, I'm just going to wait till the day that I do something that's going to get me shut down.
Now, for the audience, let me tell you guys, there's plenty of videos and plenty of tweets and posts you guys can see out there of Saggy and I going back and forth. But at some point, the shit just gets old, right? We got tired about fighting about the Amico, and all those conversations are out there. You guys can go search them. But we started having more interesting conversations, outside of the Amico. Specifically, what was happening during that time. What I do want to talk about, which is what a lot of people don't even think about sometimes, is back in, what was it, 2021, late 2020, 21, we were busy making a lot of content. I was trying to produce content. You were out there. The pandemic was raging. And I don't know if it was because people were locked indoors and all this stuff was happening. Toxicity was at all-time high, right? People were pissed on both sides. What do you remember about that period, and what kind of impact did it have on you personally?
Well, it's not my first tango with community drama.
Mm-hmm.
But every time I get involved in some kind of culture war, console war, movie war, whatever the war is, it always brings out the ugly in me, and it brings out the ugly in everyone. Now, I won't even say I never. You always think that people are awful, disgusting human garbage, right? Because you're in the moment and you're arguing separate things, right? Not separate things. You're arguing two different sides. So when it's in the moment, you're elevated, you're heated, you say things, but then when things start calming down, you start reflecting and being like, well, maybe that there's more in common that we have than we have differences. So like, I want to understand better. I want to understand like why these things keep happening. So like why this happens. So I try to say, you know what, let's be calmer now and we can talk. If you're willing to talk, I'm willing to talk. And that's basically the best thing I try to do, is like, even in the moment I'll be like angry, frustrated, and then that doesn't help the situation. Then when I'm calm, I'm like, all right, I want to understand where these people are coming from, see if we can find some common ground. We don't have to love each other and be kumbaya, campfire stuff. We could just talk it out and see like if we can understand one another and stop hating each other, if that makes sense.
We can, of course, we can agree to disagree, right? I mean, we disagree in a console, but we agree to talk in many other things. We have pretty interesting conversations, even though we don't see eye to eye on many things, but that's actually what makes them interesting. But I wanted to ask you, were you surprised how many old man cringe men like myself were acting so immature? And I'm not at all, putting myself out there like I'm better than anybody else, because like I told Potion, once I made his Fanboy Wars, I started reflecting on myself like, shit, I'm falling into the same stuff. But were you surprised how immature some grown ass people were acting at that time?
I mean, I'm not surprised with age, regardless, when it comes to online. I think that goes out the window sometimes because, the internet's not a real place. So you are, I have no judgment on people who act like, immature. I act immature and I'm not a kid, So I wasn't really surprised at the age of the people fighting over this console. I think actually, like for you, when I finally stopped arguing with you and realized, okay, this is a guy who actually kind of sounds like he knows what the hell he's talking about. This isn't somebody who's trying to argue with me for the sake of arguing or trying to change my mind. It came across more like you were just trying to educate and not really attack. And once I realized that, I was like, okay, maybe this is somebody I can talk to. So I think it's like immaturity on my end as well, where I'm not listening, right? In the moment, I'm not listening to the words you were saying. I was just getting like mad, like, oh, here comes another hater coming out talking trash. And then I was like, wait, the way he's typing to me, the way he's replying, he's not being attacking. He's trying to educate me and have a discussion. So I think it wasn't really a surprise of the age of the people coming out and fighting over this console. I think it was more of like, I was just shocked of like why people were so mad about this console thing.
Yeah, I mean, and we all learn. Let me tell you, I have daughters, I have granddaughters, I have a wife, right? And none of them are online. specifically because of this type of stuff, right? Specifically
Mhm.
because of that. And many of us wants to dip our toe. I know there's talented people out there that maybe want to get on the YouTubes. I mean, what advice do you have for a young woman, right, or a young person out there that wants to get into this so they don't uh, get discouraged, right, by some of this stuff that happens?
Um, the best advice I usually give anyone who wants to do YouTube or be a content creator, streamer, whatever, is just prepare yourself for crazy people and people who are going to um, judge you regardless. Like maybe they just don't like the game you're playing if you're streaming a game, or if you do YouTube and you want to like talk about a topic, you're gonna have people who are gonna argue with you about that. um, it does take thick skin, and I know that some people take that as an offense, but it really does take thick skin and a good decent mental state. I won't say good because everyone has a level of mental health issues, but it does take a good mental state of mind going into this, especially depending on what you do as a content creator. Like if you're just going to post videos of you, maybe you're a toy hunter, and you're going around doing toy hunting, something like that doesn't seem like you would get too much hate. But like what I do and what some of most, commentary community, drama channels, things like that, like if you have an opinion, expect that opinion to be challenged.
Yes, and you know what? And I've said to you this before, and this is for the benefit of the audience. Everybody has different talents, right? And we all have different gifts. And I think one of yours is something that people out there sometimes have problems with, men or women or humans in general, and that is the ability to take pressure, right? To perform under pressure. Of course, we all tend to take mental breaks and what have you, but not all the channels survived, right? Some people quit, some people restarted, some people just went away. Um, and we all have to take mental breaks, but that doesn't mean you have to quit. But you toughed it out, right? You gain a lot of respect from a lot of the haters because you faced the music, right? Even though we had a different opinion, you would go on shows. You went on on hater channels, and while people were streaming and talking shit about you, you would show up, and debate or make your point of view. Where does that mental toughness come from for Saggy
Um,
Melonz?
I think I honestly don't know. I think it's more of like my need to want to communicate with people, to not only understand what their issues are, but because I also want to be heard as well. So if I feel like a hater streamer is not understanding what I'm trying to say, if they're like talking about something I covered or whatever, that maybe like they might interpret it one way, but I'll come on and be like, hey, so like ask me, like, talk to me. If you don't have to react to what I'm saying. Like if you have questions, just communicate with me, because I'm very approachable, even though people think I'm not. I am. So it's more like, I wouldn't say it's toughness or anything. It's more like I like to talk to people. Um, Believe it or not, I used to be very shy and very quiet, and I would just let people walk over me. I would never stand up for myself. I would just take it. So once I broke that, I'm more like unafraid to speak. I like to talk to people. I like to learn, because again, communication, it goes both ways. So and education is only achieved if you're willing to be educated. So like I said, for example, when we were going at it, you were trying to educate, I needed to listen. So when we talked, I had a better understanding of like what you were trying to tell me, instead of me just interpreting it as you attacking or talking crap. So I think it's more like, yeah, just I want to talk to people. I want to understand, or try to understand, where they're coming from and have them also try to understand where I'm coming from. And if we can't meet a common ground or where either one changes his mind, it's like, okay, well, we still had a good conversation no matter what. We walk out of this having a good conversation.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that you did, I remember you said, I'm going to monetize the hate or something to that effect. And you did. Because a lot of the, you gained subscribers of people, people that didn't necessarily like you, right? And they came over and they put you over the top.
Yeah, and I told them not to. That was a crazy thing. And I meant that. I said, don't do it because you're just going to help me. If you don't like me, you're just going to keep helping me. And then 1,000 subs later, and I was like, well, there you have it, folks.
One of the things that I said a long time ago, and people have used it again, but that's the concept of positive hate, right? And what I mean by that is sometimes your detractors or people that don't agree with you will make an observation that you might take as a dig sometimes, right? But it's really not when you pay attention to it. You have the gift of gab, right? You have the gift of communication. I've told you before, and this is for those of you who don't know out there, humans' biggest fear is public speaking. Death is number 2. So people would rather die than to speak in public. So that is something that you can use it as a tool in your career, right? Many people don't want to do any type of public speaking, but even this practice on YouTube can help you in the long term. But when people, for example, say, hey, you sound like Meg, for example, right? If somebody told me that I sounded like one of the characters in Family Guy, I would monetize the shit out of that. You know what I'm saying? I'd be, selling voiceovers going giggity giggity or something like that, and those are actually positive things. So saying that you have that type of voice tells you that you have voice talent, and that's something that you can nurture, develop, and move forward with. Now, have you ever thought, right, of turning this into a career, maybe studying some broadcasting or anything like that in the future?
Honestly, I mean, I would love to, but I feel like it's too hard to get into, honestly, and it's like I got bills to pay.
Yeah, I mean, but the reason you do it is not to do it for somebody else. You do it for yourself. Right. So I'll give you an example. Right, remember that lady for Bayonetta?
Yes.
Okay, so you remember the whole deal. At the time, I said she has a bad rep. Maybe she's just representing herself. Maybe she's in a union. I don't know. But if somebody gives you a character like that, you can even do it for free, right? If you can get something on the back end, because when you develop a character, right, somebody asks you to be the voice of something, a cartoon or whatever, you can say, okay, look, pay me whatever you want, but I want this in the future, right? If you had the voice of Meg, right? If Mila Kunis doesn't want to do it anymore, right? And that's the other thing, right? I mean, what they're really telling you is you sound like Mila Kunis doing a voice of a character, right? So that's actually a compliment to your voice, right? So now, I mean, if it was me, I could tell you what I'd do. I mean, you already have an OnlyFans. I set up a hotline, Meg talking sweet nothings to you, $25 a minute. Meg will tell you she's in love with you, and you'll probably get tons of customers. 10% commission on that, by the way. No, I'm kidding.
I totally give you 10% for the idea.
Let me ask you, if you had to go back in time and talk to Saggy, right, before all this pandemic and all this stuff happened, what would you tell yourself if you had to start over?
How far back we talking?
Just before the Amico went ballistic.
I would tell myself, damn, what would I tell myself? I'd say, girl, save all your money, invest in a better computer, and learn how to use OBS.
Yes, I'm struggling with that. I have Panda assessing me. This is the reason I can even do this. I couldn't do it without his help. And, one of the things is I start talking about for creators, and it doesn't really matter what you do, is creating your own infrastructure, but it's gotten so crazy, right? It's gotten so crazy that even if you represent a company or if you're going to talk about a specific subject, now you almost have to consult a lawyer, right? I mean, you never thought that just because you liked the console that everybody hated, you were going to have to get legal advice, right? I mean, that's insane. When
Right.
because I liked the Saturn back in the day where everybody liked the PlayStation, I didn't have to do that. So social media has changed that tremendously, right? How do you feel about that game changer now that everybody wants to, shut down your channel, cancel you, send you letters of cease and desist, even fake ones? I mean, what the hell do you do?
I honestly, I don't know, because like in the beginning with the Amico, right? When
Mhm.
people were like, "Oh, you promoted it," I was like, "No, I didn't. I wasn't a promoter. I didn't get paid or anything." And then people were like, "No, well, when you do this, that's a promotion." And I'm still in my head. I'm like, "Did I?" Like I had to think about it. I was like, "Was I?" I was like, "No," because I never told anyone to buy the thing. They're like, "It doesn't matter." So it's like, when I'm thinking, okay, all my crime is liking something. That's all I thought I was doing, was
Yeah,
liking something.
it's what.
And so
Uh-huh. Yeah, I'm
and
sorry. It's what
yeah,
people can do with your image afterwards too.
right. So it's like, I didn't think being a content creator that's talking about something that they like was going to be such a huge deal, right? Especially with legal stuff, because you're just sitting here thinking like, well, I'd like a movie. Does that mean that I'm now working for the movie director and things like that? So it's like, I think it comes from a place of like ignorance in this time, because like you don't think that like the chimes are changing, where a YouTuber, even with a small platform, could unintentionally be breaking a law without even knowing it, because we
Yeah,
don't know the laws. We're not lawyers.
yeah, and I'm just gonna speak in generalities, okay, here, because again, it's not legal advice, not financial advice. But what could happen, let's say that you liked another console in the future, okay? Not
Right.
any console. In the future, there's a console that comes out, there's a CEO, and he tells you, Saggy, look at this console. I'm gonna give it to you so you can play it on stream or whatever. And you go ahead and play it, and this is great. And on the back end, right, because he gave you that console, he makes you sign this contract. Well, this contract that most YouTubers don't read could say, we can use your content for anything at all, right?
Yeah.
So they can chop up your content and make it seem like you're saying something in the future that you never intended. And now you're in a private video chat between, speculators and investors and all this thing. And now your face is being used to present a product that you have no idea. And not only that, you're not getting any commission off of this, at least. And the reason I tell people, right, and I tell people, if you're have a connection with a company, you should say it, is because you're getting paid. If you get paid, right, if anything wrong happens, the liability is on that company. Because let's say that you knew the CEO, right, but behind the
Mhm.
scenes, all the other owners kick his ass out, and they say, hey, we're going to do this now. Now, the first intention that you had is gone out the door. It doesn't matter what that CEO tells you, because these guys own the company, and now they own your contract, right? So, I mean, those are the type of things that you never thought about before. I never thought about that when I was playing Nintendo. Somebody was going to give me a Nintendo, and, I wanted to shoot a commercial. Hey, I love Nintendo. You never had to worry about that shit. But in this world now, it's just like, what do you
Right.
do? Yeah, yeah.
Right. And that's what I thought. Like, I thought nothing of it, because, like I said, we're not lawyers out here. We're just regular people. And we're just like liking something, or we're like, okay, yeah, I'll give this a try. And, it was kind of cool that, like, okay, there's somebody out there who's making a console. That seems cool. I wasn't interested in it because I'm a current gen gamer. I love my PlayStation. And, you don't think of these things like that. And, um I just, like I said, it's crazy, because things have changed, where just regular average people who just happen to do YouTube was like a business now, where 15
Yes.
years ago it was just people, uploading, like even the biggest content creators that are out there now, who from back in my day 15 years ago, you look at where they were 15 years ago, you look at them now, and you're like, holy crap. Like, I was at things change, I'm choking now. But yeah, like for example, Philip DeFranco. Um, when I first saw Philip DeFranco 15 years ago, dude was just doing videos with the most crappy quality camera, sitting in his bedroom, just talking about stuff he liked to talk about, things that interest him. And now the man has a whole production studio. He's got a bunch of money. He's living the dream, and it's weird. It's very weird how YouTube became a business for people.
Yeah, I mean, and I make videos like this before. Nobody ever listens to them, but I mean, hopefully now that you're here, people listen more. But your YouTube channel, I just put a valuation on a YouTube channel. Okay, so I'd say a YouTube channel with 1,000 subscribers, right, is worth about $1,000, because YouTube channels, the life of a YouTube channel is usually about 3 years. So it's about $1,000 for every 1,000 subscribers, right? So if somebody comes to you and I say, Saggy, I want you to promote this product, and you don't, I could be selling earrings, but you don't know that I make them out of, I don't know, fucking mercury, and people can get sick, right?
Yeah.
So what I have to give you has to equal the value of your channel, right? So if I tell you this promotion is going to be a year, you go, okay, well, a year is, $3,000. That's what my channel's worth, because if your earrings are crappy, this is what I'm going to lose, right? So how many months do you want me to do this? And then you break it down that way. And if they don't give you at least that, you don't need it, because you have your own infrastructure. You can just say, no, thanks. You can keep your $300. I'm going to make that in super chats and, the course over time. But that's how they look at you. These sponsors, they look at you as a product. If you had to start over again, right? Just a fresh new channel about what you do right now, what would you change? How would you set it up?
I mean, I don't know. I don't think I would change anything. I think where I am, where my journey, the journey I've been on as far as a YouTube content creator, I think that it's been an adventure. So I don't think I'd change a thing. I think I would just do it all over again.
That is awesome. Saggy, I want to thank you for putting up with all my crap over the last year and a half. And I thank you for having the grace for stopping by here and having a conversation with me. Thank you so very much.
Thank you for having me. It was my pleasure. And anytime you want me, I am yours, sir. Not in that
All
way.
right.
You're married. You're a married man.
Thank you so much, Saggy. Have a great evening.
Thank you. You too.
New videos every Monday and Sunday. Thank you for joining me on another episode of the Gen X Gamer. Remember to like and subscribe, click that notification bell, and remember, never ever be afraid to be happy. I'll catch you on the next one. Take care.